Tom Aspinall is about to get mauled again. Last time he fought Curtis, he lost in 15 seconds. You guys were talking about Tom Aspinall is going to beat Jones. He can't even beat Curtis. How's he going to beat John Jones? UFC 304 in Manchester, England. Leon Edwards versus Belal. We don't remember the name, Muhammad. And Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades. Belal's the good guy. I don't have any problems with the guy. He's a good fighter. You know, I just like giving him some grief. But we're gonna go into it. Also, the Paddy Pimblett versus Bobby Green fight. We're gonna get into that as well. So first things first, we're gonna go over the main event. Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. All right, so check it. Right here, the tail of tape, Leon Edwards, 6'2". He's not 6'2". Let's chill out with all that. Leon Edwards is probably 6 foot or maybe 5'11". Belal Muhammad, 5'11", 170 pounds. Leon Edwards is I believe he's on like a 12-fight win streak. Belal Muhammad is on a 9-fight win streak. Belal is 36 years old. Leon is 32 years old. Leon has a 74-inch reach. Belal has a 72-inch reach. Southpaw orthodox. Leon has a 59% accuracy rate on strikes. So from the tail of the tape, Leon Edwards is winning. They already fought once, and Leon Edwards was whooping his ass the whole time, and then the fight ended in the eye poke. So, it was a dirty move by Leon, but it was a eye poke. So in situations like this, especially when you look at Leon's last couple fights, like he fought Colby Covington and he fought Kamaru Usman twice, both really good wrestlers. So if Belal is going to come in and wrestle Leon, it's probably not going to happen. He's probably not going to be able to win like that because he fought dudes who were better wrestlers than Belal himself, and he pieced them up and was able to defend their takedowns. So when it comes to fights like this, Belal, he's 36, which isn't an issue, but they already fought once, right? So an X factor that I'm looking at is Belal's Palestinian, everything going on in Gaza and Palestine and with all that stuff that's going on. He's making a lot of political stances and he really wants to go out there and win for his people. So, when it comes to fighting, your reasonings for fighting is everything. So that could be an X factor in this fight. But other than that, as far as the actual fight itself goes, I don't really see how Leon can win or how Belal can win this fight. I don't see him outstriking Leon. I don't see him out wrestling Leon unless he just goes out there and gets some big crazy shot and knocks him out. That's really the only way I can see it happening. But Leon is extremely technical and proficient in striking everywhere, every part of the game. Leon's been fighting, I believe, since he was like 18, and he's really catching his stride right now on a 12-fight win streak in the UFC at the highest level. So he's a great fighter. He's not 6'2", like they say on there, but he's probably like 6 foot or 5'11". And we know it's because we've seen Belal and Leon fought before, and Leon was not way taller than Belal. So there's also a lot of beef in this fight. But if I'm gonna bet, I'm gonna bet on Leon. That's just an easy bet. It's a simple bet. Leon has a longer reach. Leon's gonna be piecing him up with the jab. Leon has the head kicks. Belal has he has good striking, but it's not as crisp as Leon. It's not as refined as Leon's. So I think you have to bet on black for this fight, and you have to bet on Leon Edwards. If you're a betting man, I really don't see how Belal can pull this one off. But it's the fight game. Anything can happen any given day. Maybe he changed. Maybe he went on and went on a little trip and found himself and was meditating and just coming back and he's a whole new guy, like how Masvidal did when Masvidal went on a retreat or something, and then he came out of that retreat and became the guy who knocked out Ben Askren in 1 second. He went on that little tear and became a huge star in the sport. Stuff like that can happen to fighters when they're older. You know, usually at 170 pounds, you know, as a contender, if you're 36, you're usually coming off the end of the end of your peak there. There's not usually, I don't think there's ever been a fighter who's been like 40 years old at 170 pounds and been a champion. At heavyweight and light heavyweight, it's completely different scenario, you know, but at welterweight, typically guys start to slow down once they get past like 34, 35, which we see with Kamaru Usman, who's, I believe, 35, 36, you know, and he was untouchable. Not that his age made him lose, you know, that head kick made him lose, but once he got that head kick and his confidence kind of went away, he hasn't really been that same dominant force. He's still a great fighter, but when it comes to Belal winning this fight with Edwards, I just really don't see it. His only way that he can win really is like outpointing Edwards, going in there, taking him down. And Edwards' fighting style is specifically a point fighting style. He's a great point fighter. So I don't really see anybody in that division beating Edwards for a while, especially right now. He's 32 years old. He's in his prime, you know, and going into his prime even more so. So I really don't see anybody beating him. You know, I don't see Ian Gary beating him at all. I think Ian Gary would get tossed up. He already got his ass beat by Leon when they trained together. From the words from the likes from the rumors, that's why Ian McGarry left. I really don't see anybody. You know, I can see MVP going in there and fighting Leon, and it could be a very interesting fight. But other than that, I got Leon Edwards whooping Belal's ass. And I have it a 5-round decision for Leon Edwards. You know, that's like a lock. You know, next fight, Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades. All right, so Tom Aspinall, 14-3. Curtis Blades, 18-4. Curtis Blades, 6'4". Tom Aspinall, 6'5". You know, 78-inch reach for Tom Aspinall, 80-inch reach for Curtis. You know, Curtis 33, Tom Aspinall 31. Both have a very similar striking accuracy. Tom Aspinall has a little bit more accuracy in that regard, but these guys already fought once before. They already fought a few years back, and in that fight, Curtis Blades absolutely destroyed Tom Aspinall. He wrecked him. So I already know what some of you guys are gonna say. Some of you guys are gonna be on here and say, "Oh, Tom Aspinall, he got injured." All you Tom Aspinall stands out there, you know, dick riding him so hard. Tom Aspinall is not no John Jones. He's not quick dick riding. The dude is a good fighter. He's a great athlete. He's fast, yeah, but there's a lot of guys who can beat him. And Curtis Blades already beat him in 15 seconds. You know, you guys just want, it seems like in MMA, you know, you guys just really want that guy who's going to be the white Francis Ngannou. You guys really want that white Francis Ngannou. And that's what we seen when Sergey was coming up. You know, everyone was dick riding him. Tom Aspinall knocks him out. And now you guys are dick riding Tom, right? What happened to all the dick riders who were there with Sergey? What happened? You know, like, quit disrespecting the game. You know, Curtis is a dude who's been on the grind, who's ready to beat Tom. Why is Curtis the underdog here? You know, it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You MMA fans are just, you know, ridiculous. But anyways, exactly. And look at this. Tom is only on a 2-fight win streak. Tom's only on a 2-fight win streak. He beat Mercian Tabura, and he beat Sergey Pavlovich. Before that, he lost to Curtis Blades. So you guys got to stop with all this Tom Aspinall is the real champ, and he deserves to fight John Jones and blah, 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 blah. No, he doesn't. He doesn't deserve to fight John Jones. John Jones is on a 20, has never lost. He's on a 30-fight, 40-something win streak, right? and he's finished almost everybody he's fought, champion after champion after champion. So John Jones is the heavyweight champion. So let's cut it out with all that. Tom Aspinall is not making it past Curtis Blades. All right. And there's multiple things to substantiate that. The fact that they already fought once and Curtis already whooped his ass. All right. That's one. Man, Curtis is on a 1-fight win streak. Shit, what the fuck is going on? What's going on in this heavyweight division? So, okay, Curtis lost to Sergey Pavlovich by knockout, okay? And then he beat Jailton Almeida. Now he's fighting Tom Aspinall. Before that, he was on a 3-fight win streak, all right? And he had lost to Derek Lewis. So the heavyweight division is, I don't want to say easier, but, you know, you can see there Curtis has one, you know, only beat one guy. Well, he's on a win streak before that. You have to look at his whole body of work. But I think this fight here, I got Curtis winning. And, you know, matchups makes fights. Curtis got KO'd by Pavlovich. Pavlovich got KO'd by Aspinall. But Aspinall already lost to Curtis, right? So it's a weird this is matchups makes fights. And I think Curtis versus Aspinall is going to end up similar to the way it ended up the first time. I think Curtis is going to come out, take him down, ground and pound, get a finish by the 3rd round. You know, and then all you dick riders out there, Tom Aspinall fanboys, are going to say, you know, make some excuse why, you know, Curtis beat him. But when we look at Aspinall, you know, how has he lost, right? Aspinall has lost by TKO, Curtis Blades, right? He lost earlier in his career before he's in the UFC by elbows, a legal elbow. He threw a legal elbow, and he lost by heel hook. So just based on that alone, Tom Aspinall's weakness is on the ground. His weakness is on the ground. I'm sure he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't really use his ground game like that. I think Curtis is going to be a lot better on the ground, and with Curtis and his elbows, they're nasty. You know, that's why they call him Curtis Razor Blades. You know, so I'm going with Curtis again. You're gonna bet on black for this one. You know, also, you know, something to look at in this fight. The fight's gonna happen at like 3 a.m. in Manchester, England. So Tom Aspinall might have a slight advantage there, being that he's from there and he doesn't have to adjust to the time period and stuff like that. But also, Curtis Blades, being that he's from America, the time period that they're going to fight at 3 a.m. is going to be similar to the time that he would be awake and training in America. So that is also going to be interesting. That might affect Tom Aspinall actually more than it's going to affect Curtis, because Tom Aspinall, if everybody lives over there in Manchester and they're training, I doubt his training partners are going to want to wake up to go train at 3 a.m. Because when you're training at 3 a.m. and if you're running a business and you like his coach is running a business, it's going to be hard for those guys to actually get up and do training sessions at 3 a.m. Because if you train at 3 a.m., you have to sleep in the daytime. And then you can't really run your business unless they have it set up to where they have people running their business. But it just makes it really, really complicated, these late night fights. And that's what we've seen with Francis Ngannou when he fought Anthony Joshua. He fought him at 3 a.m. In Saudi Arabia, and he said it kind of really affected him. So that's also something to look at. I think Curtis is going to have the advantage in that regard. But going into the next fight, Paddy Pimblett versus Bobby Green, or King Bobby Green, right? So first off, Bobby Green is 30, I believe he's like 38 years old. Bobby Green's 5'10", Paddy 5'10", you know, both same weight. Bobby's almost 10 years older than Pimblett. You know, Bobby has a shorter reach. They both are orthodox. You know, Bobby has better striking accuracy. You know, Bobby just fought Jim Miller, And let's say I want to say Paddy Pimblett is a weaker version of Jim Miller. He's like a less refined Jim Miller. Paddy has not really good striking. I believe he cuts too much weight to get to 55, just based on how big he gets outside of the ring. He has had a lot of fights, but they've also tailor-made and picked his fights. They picked this fight. They had him fight Tony Ferguson. Paddy struggled with Tony Ferguson, which that they're kind of like trying to give him an alley-oop there. Like they in their mind, Tony Ferguson was on a decline and Paddy should be on the incline. Paddy lost to Garrett Gordon, right? They robbed him. They clearly want Paddy to win and be a big star, but there's a lot of holes in his game, and I think he's really not as good as they thought he was going to be just yet. So when you're fighting someone like Bobby Green, who's an extremely well-seasoned vet, he fought Islam Makhachev. He fought Jim Miller in his last fight. He fought Jalen Turner. He fought basically everybody. He fought pretty much everybody. When we really look at Bobby Green's career, he's been in UFC for so long. I'm going to pull up his career here real quick, and we can really kind of dive into it, because Bobby Green might be 37 years old, but to be honest, that really doesn't make that much of a difference in this type of scenario, because when we look at Bobby Green's fights, he's not showing really any sign of like necessarily slowing down. All right. So let's look at, this is Tapology. Let's look at Bobby Green's last couple fights. All right. Bobby Green he's 32-15 and 1 in his pro career. He obviously had his amateur career before that. So that's a lot of fights. All right. So now Bobby Green, he currently he just beat Jim Miller. He fought Jalen Turner before that. Grant Dawson, he beat him. I would say Grant Dawson and Paddy Pimblett are similar. They're very similar type of guys. And that fight ended in 30 seconds, right? Tony Ferguson before that, and he finished Tony Ferguson. Paddy Pimblett couldn't finish Tony Ferguson. Jared Gordon before that, it ended up in a no contest headbutt situation. So just based on that alone, they have already fought similar fighters. And the way that Bobby Green beat those guys was very different to the way Paddy beat those guys. Bobby Green finished Tony Ferguson. Paddy Pimblett went to decision with Tony Ferguson. Bobby Green and Garrett Gordon fought. They were having a good fight. It ended up in a no contest. Garrett Gordon hit him with a headbutt. Grant Dawson is very similar to Paddy Pimblett in the sense that they're both newer guys coming up through the ranks. And Bobby Green finished that fight quick, 30 seconds. All right. So when you're looking at fights, that's something that you want to look at. All right. So let's go back. Let's look at Bobby Green's entire career and the names that this guy has fought. This man has been fighting since 2008. All right. And he's fought the who's who in this fight game. He's fought Jorge. He was supposed to fight Jorge Masvidal. He fought Jim Miller, Edson Barboza, Dustin Poirier, Eric Cope, Thiago Moises, Clay Guida, Islam Makhachev, Nasrat. He's fought everybody. He's fought all the best dudes in this division and champions, from different time periods and different lineages and different eras of that lightweight division. So Paddy Pimblett is nothing that Bobby Green hasn't seen before. I'm putting my money on black again. I'm betting on Bobby Green. All right. So I know some of you guys are gonna be like, oh, you just bet on the black guy every time. You just bet on the black guy every time. You're a racist. No, it just happens that I'm gonna bet on John Jones if Tom Aspinall and John Jones fight. I'm gonna bet on Francis Ngannou if Stipe and Francis fight. I'm gonna bet on Bobby Green if he's fighting Paddy Pimblett. I'm not racist. I'm not always gonna bet on the black man. You know what I'm saying? But just so happens that in this scenario, when we look at Bobby Green and Paddy Pimblett, Bobby Green is a better fighter than Paddy Pimblett. That's really what it comes down to. That's really what it comes down to. So now let's look at Paddy Pimblett, his last couple fights in his career, as it is currently. This is Tapology. So Paddy Pimblett was a Cage Warriors champion. He's 21-3 currently, 29 years old. He has had a long career at a young age already. 7-fight win streak. All right. But when we look at that fight, he really shouldn't be on a 7-fight win streak because he lost to Jared Gordon, right? So he should be on a 1-fight win streak. Okay, just like Bobby Green. This is a very similar fight. This is a very similar fight. Paddy beat Luigi Vermani in the first round with hooks. Let's see where Luigi is right now. I haven't been keeping up with Luigi. Luigi is currently, he hasn't fought since his Paddy Pimblett fight. So that's interesting. It's very interesting. When it comes to Paddy Pimblett, he fought Tony Ferguson decision. It's been a lot of decisions. Jordan Levitt, he beat him with the rear naked choke finish. So Jordan Levitt is also way too small for that division, to be honest. Jordan Levitt is currently he lost to Chase Hooper last, so that's kind of like a 50-50 matchup. So basically, Paddy Pimblett's going to get murked by Bobby Green. It'll probably be a 2nd-round knockout. That's what I believe. Paddy Pimblett's striking is not good. He's good on the ground, but someone like Bobby Green has fought a lot of good guys on the ground. And I actually have met Bobby Green multiple times. We were both sponsored by this company, DNA, Do Nothing Average. And Bobby Green's a hardcore dude. He's had a lot of tough fights, and he will fight anybody. He has no fear. He's a great striker, a really good fighter, and he's a seasoned guy. And I want to see him get to the title. I think he's been in the game for so long, pushing it for so long, and I think it's his time. I think he's going to take out Paddy, unless they try to rob him of a decision. But 2nd-round knockout. Paddy's going to come out trying to get the takedowns or whatnot, and that's not going to necessarily work on Bobby Green. He's too much of a vet. So, again, Leon Edwards winning by decision against Belal Muhammad. Look at that. I almost forgot bro's name. I'm not trying to be funny. I literally almost forgot Belal's name there for a second. So I got Leon Edwards again. Belal, good fighter, but I don't really see it happening for him. Tom Aspinall versus Curtis. They already fought. Tom lost in 15 seconds. ACL, whatever. Also, when they fought, even in that quick 15-second exchange that they had, Curtis landed like 3 significant shots on him. He landed big punches on him, and Tom didn't really land anything on their fight. Go back and watch it. UFC just posted it a couple days ago. So just so happens all the guys that I'm betting on are black this time. Those are the 3 fights I'm betting on. Paddy Pimblett and Bobby Green. Bobby Green knockout, 2nd round. Bet on black. All 3 dudes. Is what it is. I can already see the comments. Oh, you're a racist. Blah 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 blah. You're betting on the black man. But hey, this is what it is. Also, a lot of you guys running your mouth about the Jake Paul fight. Hey, well, Mike Tyson's gonna go out there and he's gonna beat Jake's ass next. So another black man. Nah, I'm not just betting on Mike because he's black. Again, just so happens all these dudes are black. But I got Mike Tyson beating Jake's ass. I'm never gonna bet on Jake Paul. If he fights Alex Pereira, I got Alex Pereira beating his ass. If Jake fights, if he fights basically anybody who's an MMA fighter, I'm gonna bet on them. As long as it's not some like just shitty ass fighter. He needs to get his ass beat. So is what it is. Sometimes I might get a little emotional when I'm betting, but also I think it's okay to bet emotionally as well. Like for example, there's guys I'm never gonna bet against, is Francis Ngannou. I'm never gonna bet against him. It's pretty much the only guy I'm never gonna bet against. Like if Francis fights John Jones, I got Francis winning that fight by knockout. Pretty much most of his boxing fights, I'm gonna bet on Francis. There's one time I was in Vegas and I forget what was going on, but I think it was a birthday or something. And the Francis and Stipe fight was going on, and I was gonna put down. I believe it was gonna put. I was gonna put down like I think it was like $200-300 on Francis, and if I would have put that money down on him, I would have got like $8,000 back. I didn't do it because I was just like, oh, let me just chill and see what's gonna happen. Francis destroyed Stipe that fight, and I was out of $8,000. So ever since then, I will never ever bet against Francis. Also, because when it comes to fighting, when you look at somebody's story, that's a big indicator of the reasons they're fighting and why they're going to win fights or why they're fighting in the first place. So that is the X factor with Belal Muhammad in this fight. He is fighting for the Palestinian people, and he wants to go out there and win as a Persian Palestinian because he wants to give those people something to look forward to and make them proud. And that's an honorable thing. That's a very honorable thing. So that is an X factor. Like, for example, when Leon beat Kamaru Usman, it was he wanted to be the first Jamaican world champion, and where he came from, his dad was like a big time gangster. He was in the gang life, and he switched his life around through martial arts. So those factors and finally being able to win a world championship for his dad, so that those factors pushed him to be able to win against Kamaru Usman. So that is really something to look at, the reasons people are fighting. But even with all that being said, I still don't see Belal Muhammad winning this fight. If he wins, then I'll eat my words, but I don't really see it happening, Also, this fight, I feel like the heavyweight should be the main event, but Tom Aspinall, why is Tom Aspinall fighting? He wants to be the first heavyweight champion from the UK, right? Curtis Blades, why is he fighting? I don't really know much about Curtis Blades other than he has like a stuttering problem and he's a wrestler. Other than that, I don't really know much about him. But I'm sure he's been in the game. He's been knocked out a few times, had a very tough run, and has had a lot of success. And he's beat a lot of good fighters. And I know that he's on the come up right now. And he wants to go out there and get the money, get the belt. Same thing with Tom. So it is a very interesting matchup, and it's a great matchup. But they fought before, and when we see like when rematches happen, like Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards, the second time they fought, Leon already had his number. So this is a very similar thing. I feel like Curtis has Tom's number. Even in that quick 15-second exchange that we saw, Curtis hit him hard like 3 times. Tom is fast, but I feel Curtis has this one in the bag. And Paddy Pimblett, Bobby Green's reasonings to win, I believe, are stronger than Paddy's reasons to win. Bobby Green has had a long, hard, tough career. He has multiple kids. He wants to make that money. He wants to do his thing. He wants to get to the belt. He's a great fighter, and that's really why he wants to get to that to the belt right now. So he's been fighting since 2008. He's looking at his fights like greatest hits, like albums. So that's why I think Bobby Green has just more reasons. Paddy, he's too young right now, I think, and he's not seasoned enough to go out there and get the job done. Also, I feel like his reasons aren't strong enough, currently. So I'm going with Bobby Green. Let me know what you guys think. And, we're going to make this money on these fights. And that's what it is. Learn to fight.